Chapter 36. What are some of your biggest accomplishments in your career? During my 25 years at Bone, there are two things that stand out. One happened when I was project leader for our new computerized order entry and billing system. The other was when I was manager of the transportation department. Being project leader on such a huge project put me in touch with about every department in the company and all five of the plants, from California to Canada. This system brought computerization into almost every office. Prior to this, the computer was hidden away in a big room and input was done by punch cards, and all programs ran as batches, mostly overnight. I was completely immersed in this project. I spent all day at the office working with the departments and my crew of programmers. Many times, I would go back into the office at night and check out the trial runs of new programs, and that would sometimes be after midnight before I would get home. I remember many nights as I was lying in bed, half asleep, these ideas would come into my head. This one night, I just had to get up in the middle of the night and write down all the ideas about this invoicing process. I have heard that sometimes the most creative ideas come to you during that half asleep, half awake state of mind. My regular job was in the OEM coil department, so I knew about the system they had for invoicing the shipment of coils to the customer. The content of the coil was aluminum and copper. Those two materials were, at times, very volatile in price. It was very complicated to get price adjustments that followed the COMEX or commodity market pricing. The company could get shorted if the adjustments were not done quickly. And, because it was not easy, they made monthly adjustments to the price on the orders. I designed a system using the new thing called a database to make this process very easy and quick. As I sat at the kitchen table that night, I wrote it all out. Having it all on paper gave me comfort in knowing it would not be forgotten the next morning. I went back to bed. When the new system went live, this process was included and went to work as planned. It was as easy as pie to adjust the invoice price to the latest COMEX for copper and aluminum. The database had the weight of copper and aluminum for each part number, and we could set the price adjustment up or down on a daily basis if needed. That ensured that the company left no money on the table. Another improvement I made was when I was in charge of transportation. Part of this job was to select the trucking companies that we would have bring things into the plants and to ship product to customers. When I first had this job, it was common practice to use the trucking company whose salesman treated you the best. That means lunches, dinners, trips, and tickets to stuff. All the freight rates were the same and regulated by the government. There was this huge freight rate book that weighed about 10 pounds that they all used, the local freight office billing, and the accounting clerk in our office that checked the bills. There was a full-time person that just checked the bills looking for overcharges, and there were plenty. While I was manager, a great change came about called deregulation. This allowed companies to negotiate rates with trucking companies. In the early months of this change, I worked out a system based on what I had seen with UPS and how they simplified their rate system. I divided the country into 8 zones with a specific set of zip codes in each zone. Then I picked a city in each zone to base the zone rate on from each of our shipping points. I picked the city which was not revealed to the trucking companies to the advantage of our company. This made it pretty simple to price our shipment by the 100 weight. The next step was to get a meeting with the sales reps from several trucking companies, long haul and short haul, together to present the package. In the meantime, I got together with one of the salesmen that I knew very well and had done a lot of fishing with. He understood the idea and knew it was a long shot to get an agreement with any of the companies. He liked the system and agreed to help. I got the meeting set up and had about 8 reps from their companies in attendance. This was enough to cover all our shipping needs for all plants, but still far less than those handling the market. I had given all an overview of my plan a couple of days ahead. We sat in the meeting, and I went over the benefits and all. Then I asked for their response. Larry Thomas, my salesman friend, stood up and said that his company was on board 100%. The others didn't know what to say. They all had intentions of turning it down. Larry had gone out on a limb for me because his company had not agreed to anything yet. It wasn't 24 hours later that I heard from all the other companies and that they had signed up too. That was a wonderful moment for me. Thank you, Larry Thomas. I don't think that any of those big trucking companies had agreed to anything like that before. It was simplified contract rates enabled by the deregulation of the trucking companies. What I did next was implement this entire process into the computer system that I knew very well. First, I automated the generation of the bill of lading for each shipment. This eliminated a full-time union position at each location. They used to use a typewriter and make multiple carbon copy documents. Then I had the computer calculate the freight cost and print it on all the bills. Calculating the freight rate was pretty simple based on the zip codes and weight. With that cost printed on the bill, the accounting department no longer needed the 10-pound book or the clerk to check the bills. Also, the clerk in the trucking company office just simply took the cost as shown on our bill and transferred it to their system. There were savings made in several places, not to mention the savings in the rate itself. From my perspective, these two improvements made the most impact on our company of any other. Overall, it was a really great experience to be involved in getting our company into the computer era.